It's a new year, which means another Goodreads reading goal to set. We've all gotten the notification. It came out, I think, even before 2025 was over. And I'm so pleased to say I've already set my 2026 reading goal and I've already passed it because this year I refuse to be stressed about reaching a specific number. And so I set my goal as one. You may now clap because I have in fact reached that goal on January 7th. Well, I reached it before. But hi, welcome to Laura's Library. Today, I want to talk about 2026 reading goals in general, from numbers of books and consistency to genres I want to read to buying books and just overall how I read a lot in a year. Last year I read 96 books, and this year, of course, in my mind, it would be super nice and fun to get to 100, and I've done over 100 in a year before, but I'm not sticking to a strict number. Also, when you set a Goodreads goal, which, if you don't know, Goodreads is an app where you can track your reading, and it's kind of like a social media for books, only you're not posting images or anything. You're really only posting updates on what you're reading, what you want to read, and you can have friends and followers who keep up with what you're reading. You can follow my Goodreads as well. It's Laura's Library. But on Goodreads, when you set a yearly goal at the start of the year or whenever you do, it tells you if you're ahead or behind or right on track. And I vividly remember one time in 2025, probably in the summer, I went in and checked and it said something absurd, like 40 books behind. I was in such a wild reading slump for part of the year. Life got so busy and work got so busy. And then instead of me picking up a book because I wanted to escape and have some enjoyment or learn something new, I was picking up a book feeling stressed and anxious because I needed to get that number lower, like how many books behind I was. So this year I decided no more of that, reading for pure enjoyment. And it's so interesting. My best friend was telling me she watched a video essay, I think on YouTube, about how our generation, and I think just everyone alive right now, is obsessed with productivity. And we've lost the beauty of hobbies for the sake of hobbies and doing something for pure enjoyment. Everything has to be educational or building a good habit or lead to a side hustle, which will make you extra income. And it's true, a lot of the media I consume, I look at my YouTube homepage and what's recommended to me. A lot of it has to do with making better financial decisions and better things for my health and workouts and eating well. And it's fantastic because, yes, it leads to a healthier life, but also I have been struggling to play on my Switch. Genuinely, sometimes I'll pick up my Nintendo Switch and I have Hogwarts Legacy, which I have not finished, but I've honestly had this game since it came out. So what is that, 3-4 years now? And I have not finished it because although I get in moods where I'm obsessed and want to enjoy myself and want to decompress, after a few minutes, max an hour, I just get this feeling that I should be doing something productive. And this is genuinely not productive. And sometimes I would play Animal Crossing with an audiobook in the background. And you can see that as, yes, it's like doubling my enjoyment, but honestly, it's just me over consuming and wanting to read because I know that that's a good or productive hobby, whereas playing Animal Crossing or on my Switch is not. So I don't want to feel that way anymore this year. I want to enjoy hobbies for the sake of enjoying. Luckily, my mind, for some reason, when I'm with friends or in a social setting, accepts that as I should be doing this, that's good for me. I need to see my friends, form close relationships. So I don't feel that sense of I'm unproductive with them. I really think it's in solitude where I freak out and think everything I have to do while I'm on my own is productive. But I'm slowly learning that's not the case. And I'm trying to make reading be one of those relaxing, just purely fun hobbies. For example, yesterday I was home all day. I had the day off work and I really struggled to pick up my book. It is so good. I'm reading, I forget where it is. Oh, my phone is sitting on it. I'm reading Wild Side, I think. Wild Something. I think it's Wild Side by Elsie Silver, and this is a cowboy fun romance in the Rose Hill series, single dad trope. The premise is actually kind of crazy, but why I brought this up is because I've loved this book since the moment I picked it up. I think the plot just moves really quickly and I was really intrigued, and it makes me laugh out loud quite a few times. But all day yesterday I felt as if I had more important things to do, and I sat down on my laptop and I planned my week, and I was writing down a to-do list. I did some chores, but I honestly had time to just sit down and read. Then I started getting sucked into some writing, prepping more podcast episodes, which is really fun, and it was a productive day. But the whole point of me having this week off was to relax before I go on a trip with my friends, and I honestly have been struggling to do that. That being said, last night I had a lovely date night. I went to see The Housemaid, which I really enjoyed. I read the book maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and then last night I saw the movie with my boyfriend, who really recently read it, and he didn't like it as much. But to be honest, I had forgotten so many of the intricacies in the plot. I knew the plot twist, but I forgot of how we get there and how we're tricked, and I thought the movie did such a good job at tricking us. But I also barely ever read thriller or mystery. He says it was predictable, and I'm like, dude, you just finished the book, of course it was predictable to you. All that being said, when we got home, I finally felt the urge to read. And I did. And I read something wild, 70 pages in a very short amount of time, because it was such a good book. And I was thinking to myself, God, I wish I read more of this today, because I probably honestly would have finished the book. And maybe I'll read today. But honestly, I'm sitting down to do this. Then I have a workout class. I need to pack for my trip. I want to take down my tree. I'm stressing myself out telling you all this. I have a workout class after that too. And then the day just falls away, and I really need to take advantage of the free moments I have to read. So that huge monologue is really to say I want to start taking advantage of the few solo times I have and use them to read and not feel stressed, and just let myself not always be productive. So that is my 2026 reading goal, is let myself not always feel productive, read whatever I want to read, which honestly I was really good about that last year as well. I do genuinely enjoy reading a mix of romance, nonfiction, memoir, contemporary fiction, literary fiction, some more mystery and thriller, thanks to my book club. They're making me expand my horizons and genres. But this is a perfect segue into genres I want to read more of in 2026. Number 1 is sci-fi. I don't think I've ever read a sci-fi. I don't know if any of the books I have previously read fall into that category, but my dad loves sci-fi, or at least he did when he was younger. I don't know if he reads that much of it now. And a booktuber I love, Sarah Caroli, recently read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. It's actually a show on Apple TV now. Some people say it's similar to some episodes of Black Mirror, and I'm blanking on the show, but the one where you forget your memories when you go to work. You probably know what I'm talking about, but that Apple show. Dark Matter is supposedly similar. I don't know if it's sci-fi or more dystopian, but we'll find out, because I got it for Christmas and it was on my want to read and my buy list. So now it's moved on to my physical TBR list. But I'm excited. From what I've heard about it, it seems like a good segue into sci-fi. Again, maybe it's not even, maybe it's just dystopian, but I get a bit turned off by the idea of no romance subplot in something like a sci-fi. That's why I love fantasy, and I'm not just talking about romantasy. I love high fantasy, which is intense and war politics, and I love the magical realism, whereas sci-fi to me just feels, for some reason, like it's always talking about space. Well, obviously science fiction, it has to do something with science, so I'm just someone more drawn towards magic and ethereal beings and all of that fun stuff, and princes and princesses and kingdoms, whereas sci-fi definitely is different. I'm stating the obvious here, but I don't know. I want to give it a try. That is my 2026 goal, resolution, whatever you want to call it, is read a few sci-fi, give that genre a chance, because over the past few years I've really been exploring new genres, and I find that I love most of what I read. I think genre is sometimes a bit constricting, and you think you know your tastes, but really maybe you just like a certain writing style. Or like what I found is I love heartfelt kind of meaning of life stories, really impactful, that leave me sitting there after I finished it thinking, wow, I'm so grateful to be alive. And that was such a beautiful message. And truly that comes down to the writing and the author and the plot and the characters, less so the genre. So sci-fi. Also, more fantasy. I miss it so much. I talked about this in my most recent podcast episode as well, but I am a sucker for fantasy, and it was one of the genres that made me truly fall in love / become obsessed with reading. I will never forget reading A Court in Thorns and Roses, Throne of Glass, Cruel Prince trilogy. I guess those are all kind of romantasy, but so much more than that as well. I can't list them all because they're blanking. You know, when you have like the abundance of choice. Check out my Goodreads. You will see I've read so much fantasy in my day, and I miss it. I really, really miss it. Last year, because I think I was obsessed with getting that 100 number, and I was a bit behind at times, I did catch myself reaching for smaller books. It was still books I wanted to read, and they were on my TBR, but I was staying away from new fantasy series or anything a bit larger, which fantasy typically is, 500 pages plus. And I don't want to do that this year. I want to read exactly what I want to read, no matter the page length. And I'm looking at my January TBR, which we will get into a little later when I'm done talking about general reading goals. And I only have one fantasy on there. So I probably should commit to reading more fantasy, because I'm saying it as a general idea, but then when it comes to thinking of my TBR for a set month or like what I'm picking up next, I'm not picking them up. And I don't know why, because I miss fantasy world so much. I love getting encapsulated and falling in love with a new world and learning a new magic system. I also think it's really great inspo, because one day I want to write a fantasy. So there you go. Fantasy, sci-fi. Also for reading goals, I want to read every week. I cannot deal with another reading slump. Reading slumps take a toll on you. And there's one thing about being in a reading slump when you've just read an incredible book and you just need some time to decompress and you want to soak it in. But I have gone the opposite, where there will be weeks, maybe months at a time, where I find life is too busy or I'm so burnt out and I overcommit to plans. I need to stop doing that this year. And then I don't find pleasure in reading, because again, I'm almost seeing it as a chore or just not the pure enjoyment that it normally is. And I don't want to get to that place this year. So I need to have preventative measures, which I think will be sticking to a goal of reading every week. And this kind of goes hand in hand with my other goal, which is writing every week. And I've set an ambitious, smart? I've set a SMART goal for myself, where I have all of the measurements and how I want to achieve this, but I want to have a first draft of a book by the end of 2026. And I know that will take a toll on my free time, which I already don't have that much of. So I just need to be really smart about time management. But I also need to be really smart about stress and not burning out, and reading a lot will help me with that. Or not a lot, but just reading in general. It's like I'm telling myself and you this to keep myself accountable, because if I don't, I'm so worried I'll fall into the same habits of last year. So all of that to say, I wonder if this resonated. I think reading in this day and age, in 2026, that is so wild to say that year, is going to be our saving grace. Honestly, the world is, of course, a terrifying place. It is so important to stay informed and just know what's happening, but sometimes it can really take a toll on your mental state, and just your empathy is always, tested because there's so much going on and it's hard to swallow everything going on in the world. So pick up a book, put down your phone, and just escape for a little bit and broaden your mind, because your vocabulary will expand, your creativity, your juices will start flowing, and I think you'll just feel a lot better and calmer and more peaceful. Even if you're reading a crazy murder thriller, at least all of your senses, all of your brain power is set on this fictional world rather than the stresses of your life, because while they are important and you should deal with them, you also need a break, and reading provides that break and lets us focus on something entirely unrelated to us, which is wonderful. Unless you're reading a nonfiction book about how to improve your life, which I do that as well. But there's range, there's variety in reading, and that's what makes it beautiful. Okay, let's dive into my January to be read, or TBR. I didn't want to make this too long. I have 9 books on here, although I'm somewhat committing to a trilogy, so we can bump that up to 9, 10, 11. 11. Wow. That was embarrassing. I need to go back to school to be better at mental math. But 9/11 books on my January TBR. It is already January 7th, and that means a week has gone by. I've read only one book so far, but I did already, like I said, start a lot of that Elsie Silver book, which, by the way, is not Wild Side. It is Wildcard. So I lied to you earlier. If you've listened until now, you know that it's Wildcard. There you go. It's the 4th book. All right. Book number 1, Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. As I've said, all I know about this is that he loses his life somehow. I don't know if it's his life or his memories, but our main character, for some reason, has 2 parallel universes where he has a similar-ish life. I think in one, he has a wife and kids, or / just singular kid, and then in the other, I don't know if he has them. I am someone who loves going into books very, very blind, so I may not have the lengthiest synopsis to share with you today, and that is personal preference. I find, especially when a book tries to get someone hooked on the premise right away, they end up spoiling something that would have been really fun to find out about organically while reading. And I don't fault authors for doing this. Of course, you need your book to sell, so you want your synopsis to sound really enticing, but I have found, like, a lot of times if I read the back of the book, I'm kind of annoyed because there's something that I wouldn't have known otherwise, but I'm still going to read the book anyway. Now, that's kind of a double-edged sword, because how on earth am I picking these books? But honestly, looking at this, a lot of these are either they're an auto by author for me, I'm continuing a series, or they were recommended by YouTube, or actually one of these was recommended by a coworker. And I have a book club book that I read every month, so that's kind of fun because I usually don't know anything about the plot. Someone in book club will recommend a book, and I'm like, great, okay, I'll read it, and I try not to look it up. So, back to Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I cannot tell you much of a synopsis. All I know is that it's sci-fi / dystopian. We will find out. I will come back and let you know if it was in fact sci-fi, or you could look it up right now, but what's the fun in that? And it's not too lengthy. I hate the cover version that I have. Oh, it has real people on it, and it's like the Apple TV movie version. I so wish I had the original cover, but it's okay. I'll just read it on my Kindle, so I don't have to look at that cover. But I'm excited. I think it's not too long, so I might try and find a longer pocket of time that I have to read it. I have a 4 or 5 hour flight tomorrow, and then coming back this weekend, so maybe I'll binge. I am with my friends though, so we'll probably be talking the whole time, but we'll see when I get to it. I do want to read it this month, and it was a gift, and I typically love reading books that are gifted to me pretty soon after getting them. I think it just shows I'm so excited, and thank you for buying me this book. Then we have Releasing 10 by Chloe Walsh, and this is in the Boys of Tommen series. I should have noted down, I don't know if this is book 6 or 7, but this series absolutely destroyed my heart. I have never felt so attached and heartbroken for characters before. And I have read hundreds of books in my life, but none have cut as deep as this series. I implore you, if you want to feel every range of human emotion, read the Boys of Tommen series by Chloe Walsh. So Releasing 10, I don't even know what couple we're on. I think it's a new couple. If this is book 7, I think we've had 2 books on each couple so far. But the last Chloe Walsh book I read last year in 2025, the plot twist of the trauma one of the main characters goes through, I cried in a plane. Like, I cried sitting next to some poor man and woman on either side of me, had no idea what was going on. I mean, they could see that I was reading, so they probably inferred it was because of the book, but I'd never had such a visceral reaction reading why, just the history. I hate spoiling anything like this, and with these books you cannot be spoiled because it hits so hard and you honestly won't guess it. That's what got me, is I did not guess it. I honestly thought it was a bit trauma dumpy. After reading the last book in this series, I do remember thinking, I don't know if we had to go that hard. I don't know if we had to make it that traumatic and that sad and had to put our character through this. I think it was sad enough and we understood where he was coming from anyway. That being said, I'm really excited to read this, and I've owned it for a while. It came out sometime last year and I just kept putting it off because it's so big and I wanted to reach my reading goal, which I didn't anyway. So in hindsight, I should have just read it, but it's okay. I'm excited to get to it now, and I will report back on what I think about this book. I mean, it can't be bad. I love her writing style. You fly through these books, but do look up trigger warnings, like mandatory. The first ones are Binding 13 and Saving 13, I believe, and all of the numbers are actually the boys' rugby. Is it rugby? I think it's rugby. It's based in Ireland. Rugby's their sport, right? I'm pretty sure it's rugby. And the numbers correspond with the main boy characters, or the main male characters' rugby or jersey number. And it's an interconnected series, so you get around 2 books per couple, and they're all, well, obviously on the same rugby team, but then also the girls are interconnected, and you see a bit of each couple in each book, which makes me love it even more because it feels like a family that you're reading about. Yeah, that's Releasing 10 by Chloe Walsh. Then we've got on my January TBR, which I'm already working through, Wildcard by Elsie Silver. This is the 4th book in the Rose Hill series, which is an entire single dad series. I actually don't know how many books in the series there will be. Right now, this is the 4th. In her other series, it's really varied. Gold Rush Ranch, I think, had 5, and then Chestnut Springs, I want to say, had 5 or maybe 6. So I'm curious. So when I talked about this series previously, I said having a single dad trope is such a good idea because it makes the romance so much more important. Like, it's not just you two getting along, it's also a kid is involved, so it's a lot more high stakes, and I find they're a lot more vulnerable, and the romance progresses in such a mature, beautiful, emotionally gripping way, which I love. However, the way we're going about this one, I'm not a huge fan so far. I actually think, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm on page 100, okay? And I don't want to tell you the synopsis, but literally on the front of the book, it says she falls for her ex-boyfriend's dad. That is going to be a very awkward Thanksgiving dinner, is all I'm going to say. I don't know how it's going to play out, how people will react. It's also a very interesting way how we see the father-son dynamic play out, even in the first 100 pages when the romance hasn't quite developed yet. So color me intrigued but hesitant. I'm worried for how I'm going to feel at the end of this book. I think I'm uncomfortable right now with what I foresee happening. And I mean, it tells you what the book plot is, like what the relationship is in the literal, not even the synopsis on the back, on the front cover of the book. But maybe Elsie Silver, she's an incredible author. She's an auto-buy author for me. I will trust in her. I will trust in her and have faith, and please make it work out in a way that I can live with and end up enjoying. All right, that was Wild Card by Elsie Silver. Next on my January TBR, My Friends by Frederick Bachman. I've already started this book, and I read Beartown partially through Audible, which is another book by Frederick Bachman. And then I fell in love with the narrator for his books. I read the entire Beartown trilogy on Audible. Something just fell from a condo above me on my balcony. That was quite terrifying. It is a snowstorm outside right now. Back to the reading. I am currently listening on Audible to My Friends by Frederick Bachman, as I said, because I love the narrator for his books. It's the same woman for every book. Her name starts with an M. I highly recommend if you want to listen on Audible, or I'm sure every streaming platform has the same narrator for his books. But my goodness, what incredible author. What incredible author and translator. Anything by Frederick Bachman, I will read forever. For my 2026 reading goals is to read anything he continues to put out, because I think he is one of the best authors I've ever read. The first book I read by him, Anxious People, way back when. It was COVID and I was working at a bookstore and I decided to just pick it up. It was kind of one of the best sellers. It wasn't trending anywhere yet. I don't even think TikTok existed yet. All that being said, I have loved Frederick Bachman since day one, and I will continue to read pretty much everything he puts out. I have one more of his that I haven't read yet, and Tell Your Grandma I Was Here and I'm Sorry, something like that. But My Friends came out last year. I have a signed copy, and I don't know why I was putting off reading it. I think I just wanted to get through the Beartown trilogy, which is also by him, first, and I did finish that at the very end of last year. Book 2 and 3 of that series made it onto my phenomenal list, both 5 stars. Highly recommend that trilogy, but do look up trigger warnings. My Friends is gorgeous. It deals with grief in one of the most eloquent ways. It's honestly a bit hard to relate. I'm so grateful because I've lived up till now and have not experienced a loss very close to me in adulthood. The last one I had was my grandma when I was very young, and it does impact me, but the way that this book is describing loss in adulthood is just so heartbreakingly beautiful. And he's also so funny. Frederick Bachman has this skill in his writing of making your heart shatter at the beauty of raw emotion his characters are going through, and then they drop this crazy one-liner and you are laughing to yourself while you're teary-eyed. And that is the beauty of Frederick Bachman. I think he delivers that beautiful balance of devastating and hilarious in every book, and My Friends is no different. I'm probably 30-40% through. I honestly don't know because I've read the entire thing exclusively on Audible, on audiobook, but I do actually have the physical copy, so it'd be interesting to see what part of it I'm at. But that's My Friends by Frederick Bachman. I do anticipate finishing it this month. Next up we've got, it's actually right there if you're watching the version of this podcast, Midnight in Everwood by M.A. Kuzniar. And I bought this book at Waterstones, which is basically the Barnes & Noble and Indigo of London. So it's their huge chain of bookstores. Beautiful. If you know, you know. The Piccadilly location is gorgeous. It has something crazy like 4 or 5 floors. I would go there all the time when I was living there. I did an exchange there, and so I bought a lot of books in London, and I was there for the holiday season. So during December I went in once and I bought this book, Midnight in Everwood. The cover is a ballerina in this magical winter forest, and so I imagined it would have something to do like a spin-off of The Nutcracker. I was in fact right. I've owned this book now, I can't remember when I went. I think it was 2020. So I've had it now for over 5 years. And this winter I finally decided to pick it up, and I kind of regret it. It is not great. Honestly, the first 100 pages were so hard to push through, but I find it really difficult to DNF a book, which is do not finish or did not finish. I always think to myself, well, I've already invested X amount of time in it. It's honestly the sunk cost fallacy, but I'm like, I've invested 100 pages. What if the last 100 make it worth it? What if I end up loving it and I end up recommending this book and telling people, just push through because the end will make you love it. Hopefully that happens. I really doubt it because it's also just the writing style is so bland and boring. I'm really struggling. And the thing is, I'll try reading it at different times of day. I found I cannot read it at night because I fall asleep. Whereas there are other books, I will stay up all night reading them because they're so good. This book literally puts me to sleep. I tried reading it during the day. I was at, over the holidays, I had so much free time during the day. I would get bored. I would want to do something else. I would have such a hard time. I don't know how I've made it this far. I hope I'm halfway. I tried reading it on my Kindle. I think on my flight tomorrow, I might sit down and try and finish this book. Normally when I'm on flights, I can just push through books really easily because there's nothing else to do. If I do have my friends with me, that'll be hard. But hopefully they're reading or doing something which forces me to finish it. Because like I said, I just have this issue with not finishing books. I find it incredibly hard not to. So that's Midnight in Everwood. As of now, I don't recommend, but it is on my January TBR. Is that a bad sign? We're starting the year off on that. But no, it just shows that there's range in what I'll read. It is expanding my horizon and showing me what I don't like, which is also a good lesson in life. All right, then we have Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office by Lois P. Frankel. And this is another book I started reading last year, but I'm still getting through. I think by now I'm probably 40% through. This book is a very interesting premise. It's nonfiction, kind of self-helpy, and essentially it's over 100 different chapters or sections, and they're all rules or suggestions on how to make the most of a corporate career as a woman. I got this recommended by my manager in like a very casual way. It was not, imposed on me to read, but I decided to pick it up because I really respect her leadership style and how she is at work. I think I'm just really inspired and want to act like that, basically. So I wanted to see, okay, what educational material did you intake to end up this way? And I'm really liking it. I think you have to take everything with a grain of salt. And actually at the start of the book, when I was reading the introduction or foreword, it did say, complete this little quiz to see where your areas for improvement are, and then just go to those chapters. You don't have to read the entire book because there might be a lot of things that are not applicable to you. One, I did read this on my Kindle, so I couldn't actually fill out the little worksheet. I could have gone to my laptop or gotten a pen and paper and done it, but I thought, you know what? I kind of want to read it all because even if I don't think one of the areas of improvement apply to me, I'd still like to read the story of why she included this because there might be some insight from that. So to further elaborate, in every section, she's not just giving you tangible actions or how to reframe your mindset or why this is detrimental to your career if you do this or act this way, or how to get the most respect in a meeting and how to be efficient, yada yada yada, how to succeed. She's also giving real life examples from her clients or previous situations she's seen or experienced or heard of. And so I decided I'm just going to read the whole book and every section, even if I don't need to learn that lesson, because I want to hear the story of what made her include it. So, excuse me, I'm probably 40% through. I probably could have hustled and read it all last year, but I do find this is one where I like to go a few chapters at a time because then I can really sit with what she said, and it would be really overwhelming to try and apply 100+ things at work the next day. Also, I was off for the holidays, so I kind of like reading it while I'm working because then I can almost try applying mini versions of her suggestions in my work day the next day. So that's it. Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. That being said, though, I did start it at the end of last year, so I'm pretty confident that I'll finish it in January, and I will definitely keep reading it in January of this year. Then we have The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. This is for my book club with some of my friends. I forget who picked it, but it's a stabby book. I have no idea what it's about. All I know is that I really need to read it because in our group chat, somebody yesterday, I think, texted and said, Work is getting in the way of me reading and finishing this book, and I want to find out who did it. I'm sold. She said she has like 80. Someone else actually responded in our text thread, oh yeah, I only have 80 pages left and work is really getting in the way. All I want to do is read. I love when a book makes me feel that way. So if two of them are saying, and actually both of them have quite different taste. So yeah, if two of them are saying that this book hits in that way and makes them obsessed with reading and want to drop everything and just go read this book, I'm fairly confident that I will fly through it. And I haven't flown through a stabby murder book in a while, so I'm excited. Also, having watched The Housemaid last night, I could be in that mood again. I haven't read, honestly, the only times I read murder or thriller books now are for book club, because they're all stabby lovers. I don't know, one of them, Ellie, coined the stabby term, and I love that so much, because I'm the one recommending Beartown and fantasy and romance, and they're like intense murder mysteries and thrillers. Anyway, yeah, Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. I can't tell you anything about the plot. I didn't even know what cover it was. I had to ask them to confirm which one, because there are two called that, but it's the Ghostwriter. I got it on my Kindle, so I'll report back. I definitely have to read it in January, because book club is in a week. Oh my gosh, I actually really have to read this book. I'm going to do that. Then we have, I wrote maybe, and this is my one fantasy on this list, is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I love Cassandra Clare so much, and I have not read, this is part of the Last Hours trilogy, it's book 1, and I haven't read this trilogy. I bought book 2 ages ago because it was on a very deep discount at Book Outlet, which is just this, I don't know if you'd call it wholesale or just discounted book distributor online. But I found book 2 and it was super cheap. I know I love Cassandra Clare, so I knew that one day I would want to read it and I would just buy book 1 eventually. Then at some point, I think at Half Price Books in the States, I found the 3rd book in the series. And then for over a year, maybe 2, I didn't have the 1st. And then my lovely boyfriend for Christmas bought me this one, so Chain of Gold, which is the 1st book in this trilogy, so I can finally start it. I was really holding off. I think I was being stubborn because I got book 2 and 3 on sale, so I thought, well, I'm not going to buy book 1 full price because full price books are so expensive. It's absurd. But he bought it for me, and I'm so happy. And this is the, again, only fantasy I have on this list for this month, so I definitely do want to start it. I think I'm just a bit intimidated because I'm committing to a trilogy, but I love Cassandra Clare. I read The Mortal Instruments back in high school, and I remember getting in trouble because all I would do all day was lay in bed reading. I was completely obsessed, entranced. I will never, ever forget those books. I remember like genuinely I'm getting flashbacks right now to laying in my bed. I remember my room set up back then. This must have been 10 years ago. And my mom coming in and saying like, you didn't do this and this and this, like you're just staying home all day. And I think I said to her like, just be glad I'm not doing drugs. I'm literally laying in bed reading. Wow, what a good series. That was incredible. The grip that had on me. I would look up theories. Like once I finished it, I was reading bonus chapters on Cassandra Clare's website, and I was, it's bringing back memories. And then more recently, but still 2020, 2021, I read the Infernal Devices trilogy, which was Clockwork Prince, Princess, and Angel. And I truly adored that trilogy so much. Honestly, when I think back on her works, I almost remember that one more fondly because of recency effect, most likely. And it made me realize that Cassandra Clare's writing and how I feel about her world and characters transcends. It does not matter which series it's part of, so I can definitely continue reading her works. It's more so just about being in the Shadowhunter world. I don't think it was very specific to Clary and Jace and Simon and oh my gosh, Isabel. I'm remembering everyone from Mortal Instruments and getting this nostalgic feeling, but like I said, she's just so talented, so it doesn't really matter what series it would be part of. I'm sure I will adore Chain of Gold. I don't want to have really high hopes though, because of course, you know, happiness equals expectations minus reality. So something like that. Yeah, I think that's the equation. So I try not to have crazy high hopes for things going into them, because then it leaves a lot of room for disappointment. But we'll see. I love Cassandra Clare, so I'm sure it will be pretty fantastic. So yeah, I have Chain of Gold as January TBR. I did write maybe, but no, Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare is on there, and then we'll see if I immediately follow up, but I probably will just want to read the next two right away. And finally, I threw this in last minute. I don't know if I'm going to commit to this in January, but I have Alchemized by Senlin Yu. I got this as a birthday gift back in October of 2025, so just 2 months ago, and I tried. It's on currently reading in Goodreads, and what's so funny is the day I finally finished that book, like, it will have been on currently reading for months. I wonder, could you imagine if I only finish it after October of this year? It's like they're over a year, but I'm intrigued. I want to give this book a chance. However, everyone who has read it online, because I don't know anyone personally who has, says it is devastating. It doesn't get any happier as you go on, and it continues being dark and twisty and gory and heartbreaking. I have read maybe, I don't know actually, 20 to 40 pages of it, and I almost got sick because of how gory and heartbreaking and just hard it is to read. So I think I need supervision if I try and read it. I need someone to be there with me, and I don't know if anyone can commit to almost 1,000 pages of being there with me while I read this. That is why it is a tentative on here. It was a gift, so I would love to prioritize reading it this year, and I do think I'll like it, especially because the original Menacled, which was her fan fiction of this, is based off of Harry Potter and the Wizarding World, and I love Harry Potter. I can't see why I wouldn't like this, and it is rated really, really highly, and it is, I don't know if I call it a romantasy though, or a fantasy even, because it feels more sci-fi-y. I mean, I guess there's magic, like with necromancy, that's not really science, is it? That's magic. It's just, when I think of magic, I don't think of dead people in tanks. That with the chemicals, oh my gosh, I can't stomach it. I can't even stomach thinking about it. Maybe I'm just not going to read it, but no, I want to read it. I think I'm going to read it. And so I added it on my January TBR. Watch every month this year. I just keep adding this book and I never get to it. We'll see. But yeah, that's Alchemized. And with that, my cat is ready for cuddles and a little break and all my attention. So those are my 2026 reading goals. That is my loose January TBR. I am not going to hold myself too strictly on anything this year. As I said, I want to enjoy reading for fun and to de-stress. So if my feelings change and I just go stare at my massive book stack and decide to pull something out of there and start reading it, I'm going to follow my gut. That being said, I do want to read more fantasy. So likely Cassandra Clare will get read this month. But that is all. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a wonderful year ahead of you as well. And let reading be a part of your fun 2026. And yeah, happy reading.